Welcome to our service from the Unitarian Society of Northampton and Florence. I'm David Mix Barrington, and I'm a member of the choir. If you are new or returning after a time away, we're glad to see you. Please feel free to fill out a blue welcome card, which you can put in the offering plate later in the service. There is a link to an online version in the chat. We'll put you on our email list so you can receive information about all that we do. We strive to be a congregation that welcomes people of all ages, races, religious beliefs, backgrounds, sexual orientations, gender identities, and abilities. We belong to the Unitarian Universalist Association of Congregations, and we are guided and inspired by its values and principles. Our values and principles move us to remember that those of us in the Pioneer Valley live on the unceded homeland of the Pocumtuck, Nonotuck, and Western Nipmuc peoples. We acknowledge our responsibility to confront the legacies of dispossession and systemic racism that are part of our collective history, and we affirm and celebrate the many legacies that inspire us. We have drawing materials and other ways to occupy hands on the tables in back. Restrooms are downstairs and reach through one of these doors. You can either take the stairs or an elevator and return the same way. We stream our services on Zoom and YouTube, and there is a camera in the balcony that looks down on the Great Hall and shows people's heads from the back. If you prefer not to be seen on camera at all, we suggest that you choose one of the 4 or 5 rows in the back of the hall. Please join us for social hour downstairs after the service with dreidel games and an art activity. Children's holiday cards will be on sale. And from 11:30 to 12:30, you are invited to the parlor for a discussion on the monthly theme of mystery. We're here to celebrate, to reflect, and to support one another. It is good to be together. And now we'll begin our service.
Again did the earth shift. Again did the nights grow short and the days long. And the people of the earth were glad and celebrated, each in their own ways.
Please rise in body or spirit and join in saying the words to accompany lighting our chalice. Then we'll remain standing for the hymn, People Look East. May this flame we light remind us, each of us can bring light into the world. May it be a symbol that every heart can burn bright with joy and peace. May the wisdom of the ages speak to us through this flame, reminding us each of us can be a blessing to the world.
Good morning. Our story this morning, hold on one second. Okay. Our story this morning is an adaptation of a traditional tale that comes from the Inuit people of the far northwestern Canada. The version that we'll tell today has been adapted by a religious education program. A colleague, a now retired colleague of mine, Jeanette Rule, worked with her kids to adapt this story at the UU Church in Medfield, Massachusetts. Janet and I have added our own twists as well. And hopefully you all can make the story yours and add some twists too. And in fact, if you would like to be an actor in it, I'll invite you up, although in my mind, you're all gonna take part in the story. So, long, long ago, when the world was still new, there were people who lived in never-ending darkness near the far northern end of the earth. So if you'd like to come up and be one of those people for the very beginning of the story, you're welcome to. You can also be one of those people from the pew. All around them was frozen land and ice. They were cold, and the only light they had was from the stars in the sky and their lamps of sea oil. They had never seen nor heard of daylight. And one day, when they were all assembled together, as you are now, and those of you who are at home, Raven came and told them all about daylight. Raven was a visitor who traveled far and wide in the Northlands and beyond. Once in a while, Raven would visit a place that ordinary people never saw. They would often stay with their friends in the north and tell stories about these places that were far, far away. Raven told the people of a place they had seen where there was something called daylight. At first, the people didn't believe what Raven was telling them. But they knew that Raven could fly much farther than they could ever travel, especially with the darkness all around them. "What is this daylight you're talking about?" asked the people. And Raven replied, "It is brighter than any star or flame. It lights up the whole sky like lightning, but instead of a flash, it stays." Some of the people asked, "How can this be?" Imagine if we had some of this daylight. We could fish and hunt much more easily. We could see when the polar bear is coming and where cracks in the ice are. "And," said Raven, "you could see all the colors of the world. You would see the green of the trees, the blue of the ocean, the red-brown coat of the wolf, George's beautiful scarf, and the many colors of the rocks. You would see even more of how beautiful the world is." The people were fascinated by this story of daylight, and they asked Raven to tell it to them again and again and again. And finally, they started to beg Raven to bring them back some of this daylight from Raven's travels. Raven was always eager to help the people. The people and Raven were good friends. "I'll try," Raven said. "The daylight is very, very far away, and I'm not sure I can find my way there again, but I will try. It will be a long trip." And the people waved as Raven took off. Raven flew for many, many miles over frozen land. They flew in the direction of the land they had once seen, where there was daylight. And after many days, Raven saw a glimmering light on the horizon. The light grew stronger and stronger, and finally, Raven reached the land of daylight and flew down to rest, exhausted from the long flight. Above, the sky was bright blue with white fluffy clouds, and Raven slept for a short while. And when they woke up, they had to come up with a plan to get this daylight. The people of the North were generous, obviously. Because food was scarce in their land, they were happy to share whenever they had something. But Raven knew that not everyone was so generous. Raven thought, maybe the mysterious people who own the daylight won't be so generous. Maybe I'll have to steal some. And Raven was a trickster. They thought about some ideas for what they might do and flew on.
And now it's time to greet one another. We'll start by greeting everyone on Zoom. You can stand and say hello to everyone on Zoom, and then turn and greet one another in the hall. Hello, everyone on Zoom. Nice to see you. Hi, Eleanor. Hey, Melissa, great to see you. I hope you're on break. Karen, yes. Melissa's in medical school. Karen, hi, good to see you. Rick, great to see you. Kirby, you in your new house? Yay. Hi, Kathy. Hi, Kamala and Lucy. Julie, welcome home. Hi, Kit. Hi, Sally. Margaret, Joanna, Claire. Hi, Sarah. Hi, Sally. Other Sally. Randolph, nice to see you. Who else is here? I have to turn the page. Katura, hello. Welcome. Hi, Kathy. Nice to see you. Mary, Cheryl, Gail and John. Hi, Porter family. Hello, A+ Computer. And Kate and Alice and Enrica. So great to have you all here. And thank you to Amanda and Kathy for Zooming us this morning. Great to see you. We have multiple offerings this morning. We have a little later in the service, if you haven't put them there already, you'll have a chance to deposit your gifts for people in shelters, underwear and warm socks and whatever else you may have brought for the shelters. And we always take a collection on Sunday mornings, which we share 50-50 between organizations in the greater community and the congregation, the work of the congregation. And you can see the list of the organizations we support. I don't know if they're on the screen I don't think they are, but they're in the order of meeting for those of you in the hall. They're all good organizations. And we have been able to send so far, okay, we've been able to send $750 to each of those 5 organizations already since September. So your generosity is what makes this happen, and it is making a big, big difference. Thank you. This morning's offering will now be given and very, very gratefully received. That we can literally feel and communicate through our hearts, heart to heart. And he teaches a way of meditation that's meant to soften, he uses the word to polish, to expand our hearts. And as that happens, to deepen and expand the care and the compassion that we feel for ourselves and for other people. And it reminded me of a practice that many of us experimented with, worked with a few years ago when we were reading the book Mindful of Race by Ruth King. So I'm inviting you to try a variation of this morning. We can begin by putting both feet on the floor, if they reach, and if they don't, just let them dangle. And close your eyes if you're comfortable doing that. My older son's family just moved back recently from Italy, where they'd been for several years. And our grandson Caleb has a big packing box that he kept, and he leaves it outside his bedroom. He likes to climb into it, and then he'll close the flaps on top to make it dark. And I think that makes him feel safe. So if you want, you might want to imagine yourself sitting safely in your own special box. Breathe calmly, noticing your breath flow in and out. And now send your focus to your belly as your belly moves slowly and gently in and out. And now slowly move your attention up to your heart. Breathe in, breathe out. Feel yourself breathing as if the breaths were arising from the heart. Breathe in kindness. Breathe out peace. Breathe in something that makes you happy. Breathe out peace. Where's my raven? Oh, there he is. Ha ha ha. Raven flew and flew and flew until they saw a village that lay beside a wide river. Underneath it, they saw a child come to the river and dip in a bucket to get some water. Then the child turned to go back to the village, and some say Raven followed them, staying in the shadows of the trees. Others say that Raven turned into a speck of dust and settled on the child's coat. In either case, Raven was with the child when they entered the lodge of their parents, who were the keepers of the daylight. Let's say Raven became a speck of dust. It was cozy in the lodge and very brightly lit. And Raven looked around and saw something that glowed with light. That must be where they keep the daylight, Raven thought. Raven watched the child playing. The child's parent was nearby, and Raven had an idea. The dust speck that was Raven floated to the child's ear and whispered, "Tell your parent you want to play with a little ball of daylight." The child looked at the parent and pointed to the box, to the light. "What is it you want?" The child said, "I want to play with a little ball of light. Please, 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 please." Her parent shook their head lovingly and took out a small bit of light from the box and gave it to the child. Then Raven whispered again, "Say you want to play with it outside." The child asked permission and got it. Now, as Jessica said, this story comes in many versions. In some versions, the raven quickly transforms themselves from a speck of dust back into a bird. And then they sweep down, they grab the string from the child, and they take off with the ball of light. But in that UU congregation, many years ago in Medfield, Massachusetts, the congregation whose DRE, Jeanette Rule, generously let her borrow her retelling of the story, some of the children made up a different version. So we're going to use their version. This is their version. The child went out to play, and still unseen, somehow, Raven followed them. It was a speck of dust floating along. The child played happily with the ball of light, and Raven transformed himself back into bird form, ready to grab the light away from the child. But when the child saw Raven, they looked right at them, amazed by that sudden appearance, amazed by the shining black feathers. The child had never seen a bird so beautiful and so close up. Slowly and silently, the child reached out their hand, offering the ball of light to Raven. Slowly and silently, Raven plucked out one of the feathers, their own feather, and placed it at the child's feet. Then Raven grasped the string in their beak and with the ball of light firmly attached, took off up into the sky, breathing a sigh of thanks. And the child took the feather and brought it back to the lodge to show their parent. On and on Raven flew, again for days and days, for a long, long time. Flew with the ball of sunlight dangling from the piece of string. In the far north, the people gathered. They wondered if Raven had forgotten about them. Then someone saw a spark of light coming toward them in the darkness. It grew larger and larger until they could see Raven flapping those beautiful black wings. And the people were overjoyed. Overjoyed people. Raven said, "This is the sun. It will live in the sky, and from it you will learn about days and years. And every year it will need to return to the place it came from for a time. But if you remember to honor it and love the earth whose colors it shows you, it will always return." And so the people were grateful. They thanked Raven again and again. Now they would see the beautiful colors, the green of the trees, the blue of the ocean, the red-brown coat of the wolf, all the beautiful colors in George's scarf, the many colors of the rocks. And now small flowers would bloom in summer months, even that far north. In the dark times, which always came back, the people would remember that the light would always return. And they chose the darkest day near the end of December to celebrate the return of sunlight. And every year, maybe even to this day, they've told the story of their friend the raven and the gift of sunlight from a little child far, far, far away. And every year, they sing, as we will now, to celebrate when the sun returns. Please rise in body or spirit and join in singing John Lennon and Paul McCartney's "Here Comes the Sun." Good thing there's two of us. Usually somebody yells at me when I forget something, but Britt's not here. So the raven is a character in many stories from the Inuits and other indigenous peoples of the Northwest, the Pacific Northwest. And as Jessica said, in those stories, he can and does change his shape and his gender. And in a closer to the original version of the Inuit creation story, there's a part where he is part human and part raven, a human with a beak. And in that version, he turns himself into a pine needle instead of into a speck of dust. And the dust and the pine needles are both strategies to help him get into the lodge where the daylight lives, so that he can steal some of it. But instead, as we heard in the version that the kids from the UU Church in Medfield came up with, the child greets Raven with wonder, with an open heart and an open mind, and Raven doesn't have to steal. The child offers that piece of light freely as a gift. And Raven doesn't keep it. He passes it on to the people as a gift. So this fall, I signed up for a program that has about 30 other participants from around the country and the world. And each month, we have a 2-hour session where we hear about and then are encouraged to experiment with a particular spiritual practice or the teachings of a particular leader. And the meditation that we used this morning was one of those practices. It's supposed to encourage the mind to become a servant of the heart and to help our first response be one of compassion. I think of it as lowering the heart's defenses, the shields, taking down some of its shields. And I have been experimenting with it. And I'm hoping it might help me be more conscious of my initial reactions to situations and people, noticing when I do and when I don't respond first from the heart. I think it's a practice that can help remind me to try to be less grasping and more giving, less like Raven in trickster mode and more like the child in the story. We have something to learn from children, from young children, when they respond, as they often do, spontaneously from the heart. So the child gave a gift, Raven gave a gift. What do you want to give and receive this year? For the holiday? Yes, and maybe for the winter ahead, for the new year. There was a gathering, an interfaith gathering of clergy this week in Northampton on Wednesday, Jewish, Christian, and UU. And the occasion was partly to come together and reflect on and support one another during this terrible and traumatic state of affairs in Israel and Palestine, and the terrible and traumatic impact of that war on everyone, especially on the Arabs and Jews everywhere whose roots go back to that homeland, who know people who are suffering, family members who have died or are suffering on both sides. And the incredibly difficult, conflicted feelings that so many people have over this terrible, terrible situation. And each one of the clergy in that meeting expressed our longing and hopes for support and connection, greater support and connection among us as clergy in town. And we realize that's a gift that each one of us can offer to one another. So you might want to think about, what do you need and what do you have to offer? And I have a poem, part of a poem called To Flame from the UU minister Stephen Schick. Stephen writes, "All that we need is here now. The match or flint, the fuel, the air, all is ready here in the dark. Will you strike yourself against life's hard surfaces and let the flame out? Or will you let it be born from your giving? Will you let it be eternally released to spread the light? As we celebrate the season, as we celebrate the darkest day in a few days and the day after, let's allow the flame to be born and spread from our own giving, our own compassion, and our own deep, deep gratitude for all the gifts that we ourselves receive.
Just as the sun rests in these dark days, we too can take an opportunity for renewal, rest, and gratitude. Here now, in this darkest time, we gather our strength and listen to our hearts. Tricia Hersey, the author of Rest is Resistance and the founder of the Nap Ministry, says, "Rest makes me hopeful, open, and tender." Take a moment and connect with your tender self. Listen to your heart. In the tenderness, what message arises? The more I sleep, the more I wake up, Hershey says. What is it that you are waking up to? What inspires you in these dark times? Where are you finding light? What messages of hope and comfort are you finding? And we'll invite everyone who would like to participate in our ritual to share and spread the light to come up. You may have noticed that Janet and I set up 2 bowls, and in them is a votive candle. And from that candle, you can light a taper, and as you're lighting it, you can offer a silent appreciation, a wish, a blessing, a hope, something to kindle the light together for our community and our world. If you would like to do that together, if you're a smaller person and want to work together with a family member, if you're a larger person and want to work together with a family member, you're welcome to do that. And we'll start with folks that are on this side of the Great Hall. If you have your underwear donation or toiletries or something that you're giving to the local homeless shelters, you can bring that and put it in the tree, and then come on up, light your taper, offer your silent blessing, and proceed back. Elaine has a question. Go ahead. Oh, it goes in the sand. So what we're doing is we're going to create 2 bowls of light. Don't take the taper with you. Put it in the bowl of sand. Thank you for that
I think
clarification.
we can do both sides at once. Just go. Yeah. I think it'll work if we can go from both sides. Just don't run into each other with the lit taper. That's all. Okay, Elaine? Yeah, let's do it. Let's go from both sides. May our wishes and hopes be realized somewhere, someday, or even soon. One of the gifts I wanted to mention downstairs, there is an amazing array of food that people brought for social hour, and lots of yummy, sweet things to eat. So you are encouraged and welcome to come downstairs at the end of the service and talk to people and enjoy the wonderful food. And now I invite you to rise in body or spirit and sing hymn number 404, What Gift Can We Bring?
And so the shortest day came and the year died. And everywhere down the centuries of the snow-white world came people singing, dancing, lighting candles to drive the dark away. They lit candles in the winter trees. They hung their homes with evergreen. They burned beseeching fires all night long to keep the year alive. And when the New Year's sunshine blazed awake, they shouted, reveling. Through all the frosty ages, you can hear them echoing behind us. Listen. All the long echoes sing the same delight. This shortest day, as promise wakens in the sleeping land, they carol, feast, give thanks, and dearly love their friends, and hope for peace. And now so do we here, now, this year and every year. I invite you all to rise in body or spirit and join in singing Deck the Halls, which is number 235 in the Gray Hymnal, and it's on the screen.